Hey everybody, this time around I'm talking about a review of a book I just finished on my Kindle. Well, actually I finished it a couple days ago. I just been putting this off because I didn't really like it that much. It's called Loup Garou, The Beast of Harmony Falls by David Reuben Aslin. Yeah, I mostly just picked this up on the Kindle because it was cheap. It was like 99 cents, I think. And it was a horror novel, and I think maybe it was advertised on the horror show or some podcast, or one of the other podcasts I listen to. I don't know. Or maybe it's just that it was by the same publisher that advertises on there a lot. Whatever. I mean, basically, I picked it up and I read it. And I didn't really think that much of it. Why don't I show you the first chapter?
It was one of those fiercely windy days, like so many others this time of year, when the torrents of sheeted rain seemed to further drown his existence. The stormy weather served as just one more excuse. It wasn't really what held him captured within the confines of his bleak existence. He'd become a prisoner of his own creation, the aftermath of a mental disposition of his own design, one much more serious than mere seasonal unrest or cabin fever. He had leaped off the wagon months ago. He'd been sinking faster and further into the deep end of clinical depression until his brain was swimming in it. He was way beyond his depth, with no shoreline in sight, desperately treading to remain afloat while grasping futilely at any would-be semblance of a life raft that always remained just out of reach. It had all been like a bad dream, a nightmare from which he could not wake, the loss of both his wife and teenage daughter 2 years ago at the hands of a drunk driver in one ugly sweep of fate, or cosmic karma, or whatever had seemed of late to be just another horrific allowance by God. If there even is a God, he often wondered. That travesty, that sacrificial taking of the only two people he loved by the supreme, seemingly absentee landlord had ruined his life. If God existed, he hated him. He had been on the downward slope of a roller coaster ride from hell, like so many other deeply bereaved that he'd seen plenty of times over the years on talk shows, but he knew with empirical certainty that unless a person had experienced something similar, all those sad stories heard almost daily leave people mostly unaffected. That is, unless a loved one or ones should find themselves one day zigging when they should have zagged, either metaphorically or actually. Whereby random bad luck, or perhaps even crueler, some predestined cosmic fate should strike with a finality that up to that moment he never could have comprehended.
Okay, well that wasn't the whole chapter. That was just like 2 minutes worth, which was way more than I intended to read, but just couldn't find a good place to stop off. Now, as you might have noticed by listening to that, the language tends to be a little bit overblown in places. Let me see if I can show you another example that's even worse from the... Yeah, here's some really bad dialogue that's way overblown. For example, nothing short of a monster could have done that to Bud. He was the best damn hunter and backwoodsman I've ever known or even heard of. Charlie, you know as well as me about the stories of a monster living in these mountains. Stories we were told as kids. I never thought of them as just stories, and neither I figured did you, Charlie Redtail. You are not just my husband, and you are not just a lawman for this town, neither. You are the first and last Cowlitz Indian brave, and I am the wife of a proud man. You hunt down and kill that thing that done this to Bud. Just make certain, my love, that after it's done, you come back to me in one piece. Sorry, I could barely keep myself from laughing. It's overblown, overly dramatic at times, and also written in a style that's ridiculously infantile. Basically, every time there's dialogue, the character who's talking has to mention the name of the person they're talking to. it makes it basically sounds like it's a book written for kids at points, and at other times it's overblown stuff like that, which is also sounds like it's written for kids. It's just style-wise, it's not very good at all. But anyway, I'll tell you what the plot is. Maybe you'll think the plot sounds interesting enough that you might like it. Basically, the main character is Ian McDermott, who's a cryptozoologist. And as you get the impression from that first chapter I read from, he's a drunk and alcoholic because his wife and daughter died in a car accident. Yes, because, yeah, that's one other thing I don't like about this book. The author seems to have never met a cliche he didn't like. There's cliches all over the freaking place in this book. But anyway, he gets called to Harmony Falls because Bigfoot. Apparently, there's been some hikers missing, and some guy got mauled by a giant animal that he thought, big hairy thing, so he thinks it's Bigfoot. But in case you can't figure it out from the title, it's not Bigfoot. It's a werewolf. Yeah, that's not really a spoiler since that's what Loup Garou means, so anybody that knows anything can figure that out from the title. It's going to be a werewolf novel. And, that's pretty much the plot. Lots of running around, bad dialogue, cliches, and frankly the characters are freaking stupid as hell. I mean, seriously, Ian and the Charlie, who's the sheriff's deputy that was being talked to in that bit of dialogue I read for you, have to go find a wise old Indian man to tell them how to kill the werewolf. Why? I don't know. It's not like he gives them a bag of magic Indian stuff. Okay, magic Native American stuff, whatever. He just tells them to use silver, which every frickin' buddy in the world knows. Even Charlie's wife, the one who was doing the talking in that sentence, knew it as soon as they went for the silver that they were going after werewolf. Those two are freaking stupid. And hell, even when they go up to kill the werewolf, and yeah, I guess this might be a minor spoiler, he attacks them, and Ian says, "Hey, I've got a gun with silver bullets. I'm going to shoot you," and instead of just shooting it, he warns it what he's going to do, so it runs off, and the book can go on for another 20 chapters. At that point, I just really, really hated the author, because I just wanted it to be over, and they had the characters do stupid crap just to keep the book going. Okay, I mean, as you can tell, I really don't like this book that much. I don't think it's very good at all. But it's not like some of the other books I've read that I absolutely thought were awful. This is the sort of thing that's, I guess it's mediocre, really. I mean, if you like werewolves, then you should probably at least give it a try. You might like it. And if I had to give it a rating, I would give it a C. It's not absolutely awful. But the author definitely needs to work on his dialogue, cutting out all the cliches, and stop using over-dramatic stuff all the time. Hopefully, I will find better books to read on werewolves. But I don't know, it seems like most werewolf horror novels aren't really all that good. But I do have other non-horror werewolf stuff coming soon, so I'll be reading them and tell you about them, and hopefully they will be better.
If you like this video, please click subscribe or watch some of my older videos. If you think the book I reviewed sounds interesting, buy a copy. There are always links to the Amazon store in the description for this book and any other books I mentioned. If you have any suggestions on other books I could read, or any other comments, queries, insults, or anything else you want to say, please feel free to mention it in the comments section.